Hey guys, my name is Miss Barron. I'm our instructional specialist for literacy, and while Miss Brown is out taking care of her new baby, I'm going to be with you guys when it's her turn. So I want to take a minute and help us look at what we're going to be doing today. And I want to start with just reminding us the overall purpose of what we're doing with this text, the setting sun and the rolling world. I always forget that last part, the setting sun and the rolling world, because you're going to be reading this for several days. So why are we spending so many days reading this text? Just a reminder, we're spending so many days because what we're learning to do is analyze a text. When you get to high school, they're going to give you a piece of literature and they're going to expect you to come back and write smart things and be able to say smart things about that text. But what do you say? So far, what do you say? I like the book. It was about the rolling sun, the rolling land and the setting sun. Like, what do you say? This is what you say. Our job this year is to teach you the categories that you want to think about when you're reading the book so that you can talk about them and write about them when you're analyzing the book in a class. So here we go. You got to know your vocabulary, which you've already worked on with this text. You've got to find your connections where you're saying, what does this text say to me? What can I say about other books it reminded me of? What can I say about how it connects to the world and what it teaches us about the world? What can I say about how it connects to my life and my experience? Today, we're doing the next one. We're focusing on your genre. So, this genre that we're doing is literary nonfiction. So, fiction. I want everybody right now, if you're home alone, I want you to shout it out in your room or you can whisper it. If you are in a room, I want you to shout it out together. So, choral response, everybody shout it out. And I'm going to ask your teachers how loud you shouted. All right, here we go. What does fiction mean? If you're reading fiction, shout now. That's right. Fiction means that you're reading something that's not true. I hope you feel like you're watching Blue's Clues or Dora again. All right. And what does nonfiction mean? Shout it out now. Good job. That's right. Nonfiction is true. But literary nonfiction is nonfiction, something true that's written like fiction. So true, but written in a more interesting story like way, like fiction. So we are reading literary nonfiction. And in fiction and literary nonfiction, the whole story is driven and built around the characters. So, what the characters think and say and do causes other characters to think and say and do things, and that builds conflict. And then they think and say and do more things because of the conflict, which builds new conflict. And those conflicts just keep building one on top of the other until you get to the climax, which is the turning point of the story. And then because that climax happens, the characters do and say and think more things, and that causes the falling action to happen. So it's all built around what the characters are doing, thinking, and saying, just like real life, because fiction and literary nonfiction are just a reflection on real life. So as we read today, as we look at our genre, literary nonfiction, and how what we need to notice about literary nonfiction that's different than poetry, or what we need to notice about literary nonfiction that is different than um, an informational text, which is about facts and not just a reflection of life. What do we need to notice about literary nonfiction? And what we notice about literary nonfiction and fiction, by the way, is how the characters move the story. So we got to notice the characters. And that is where we use a still chart. So when we're reading something that's based around characters, what's the notes that are easy to go to? A still chart. It just helps us to remember what to notice. So you should already have your still chart open in front of you. It should look like this. You've made your own copy. And this is what we're going to fill out today as we read. So what does the character say? What's their speech? Okay. 2, what does the character think? What are their thoughts? And I don't want every little detail. I want the important details. How does the character affect someone else? What is their effect on others? Do they cause them to be angry? Do they cause them to fall in love? What do they cause them to do? What are the character's actions that are important to the story? And then L, are there things about the character's looks? Now, this one's a little misleading because I don't care if they're just telling you that the character has brown hair and brown eyes so that you know the character, what the character looks like. What we care about is there something about the way they look that tells you more about the story? And the best example of all of this is Harry Potter. Because in Harry Potter, what's the thing that you know about Harry? Well, you know he wears glasses because that is like his dad. Great, that's not that important. But you know he's got a scar on his forehead. Now, what does that scar tell you? That scar not only tells you that that kid is Harry Potter, so Ron knows him as soon as he gets on the train, that scar tells you that Harry had a curse put on him, a curse that was meant to kill him. And because his mother had died for him, that protection of love had stopped the curse from working. And when a curse that's put on you to kill you backfires on the person that threw the curse, it leaves a scar in the shape of a lightning bolt. That scar tells us the whole background to who Harry is and why the rest of the story happens. That scar is important to the story. That's the kind of looks that we're talking about. Not just what the character looks like, but is there something that they look like that's super important to the story? So as we fill out our still chart today, this is what you're looking for in our story. What did they say? What did they think? How did they affect others? What actions did they take? And how did they look? So here we go. Let's move on to our story, The Setting Sun and the Rolling World. Let me model the first paragraph for you. I want you to be asking yourself, is the character saying, thinking, acting, affecting others, or is this describing an important thing about the way they look? Which one is it? Old Musoni raised his dusty eyes from his hoe and the unchanging stony earth he had been tilling and peered into the sky. The white speck whose sound had disturbed his work and thoughts was far out at the edge of the yellow sky near the horizon. Then it disappeared quickly over the southern rim of the sky, and he shook his head. He looked to the west. Soon the sun would go down. He looked over the sun-blasted land and saw the shadows creeping east, blearier and taller with every moment that the sun shed each of its rays. Unconsciously wishing for rain and relief, he bent down again to his work and did not see his son, Namo, approaching. So the character doesn't say anything in this one, okay? Is he thinking? Yes, he's thinking. He's thinking about his wishes for rain and relief. So I know he's thinking about the fact that they need rain. So I'm going to come back to my text. I'm going to come back to my chart, and I'm going to write down my thoughts. So this is the father. I'll give that away. It's a father and son. Namo's the son. So this is the father. And what is he thinking? We need rain. Okay. Now, did he have an effect on others? Not yet. We just know what the father, we haven't seen him with the other character yet. What is he doing? What are his actions? So if I go back to my text, he's raising his dusty eyes from his hoe and the unchanging stony earth. So if he has a hoe in his hands, what is he doing? You guys who've grown up in the city all your lives don't know what that is. That's one of those little long poles with the spades on the end that you use to dig up the earth. Okay. So he's out, he's digging up the earth, he's looking to the west, he's watching the sun go down, he sees the sun blasted land. So if land has been blasted by the sun, is it dry or is it full of green things? He bends down again to his work. So he's out in the land, he's got a hoe. What is he? Obviously, he's a farmer. So I'm going to put down here, what's the character doing? The father is a farmer. And I'm going to use the word tilling because that's the correct word. When you're turning over earth with a hoe or with a tractor or with a plow, whatever, when you're turning over the earth, you're tilling it. You're getting it ready or you're chopping weeds. So the farmer he's a farmer and he's tilling the land. All right. That's what the father thought and that's what the father did. Now we're going to know that this picture of this farm that's not working, that needs rain and is not growing, that's going to be super important to this story. And the fact that the father's sticking with it, he's still out working the land, that's going to be important to this story. Let's keep going. Namo the son, crouched in the dust near his father and greeted him. The old man raised his back, leaning against his hoe, and said what had been bothering him all day long. You haven't changed your mind? No, father. There was a moment of silence. Old Musoni scraped earth off his hoe. Have you thought about this, son? For weeks, father. And you think that's the only way? There is no other way. Okay, pause. Now they're talking. All right, so what are they saying? Let's go back to our chart. So, what is the character's speech? So the father, when he greets the son, well, he was asking him, have you thought about this? He said, have you thought about this? And you think it's the only way. You haven't changed your mind. What of those do you think is the most important? Because when I'm filling out my chart, I don't just want to paraphrase and say, oh, the father's asking the son questions. That doesn't help me. What did the father say? He said, have you changed your mind? Have you thought about this? All right. If your parents come to you and say, have you changed your mind? Have you thought about this? What is that telling you they think? Pause the video and either think to yourself, get your answer in your head before you keep going. If you're home by yourself, if you're in a group, pause and talk to each other. If your parents say this to you, what do they mean? Pause. All right, so you've unpaused. So here we go. My parents say that to me, have you changed your mind and have you thought about this? My parents disapprove of my choice. They don't like the choice that I'm making, and they're trying to get me to change my mind. By the way, I'm 43 years old, and this still happens with my mother, so just so you know, it never ends. My parents disapprove of my choice. All right. Oh, by the way, we forgot to do this on the T, so let's go back and do that real quick. What does it tell us we need rain? Okay, well, if a farm doesn't have rain, it's dying. So we know the farm is dying, and that the father's out tilling the land. We know that the father is trying to keep the farm, even though it's hard. All right. So what does the son say? What does the son say? All right, here we go. He says, I thought about it. He says, have you thought about this? And the son says, no. Oh, have you changed your mind? Nope. Have you thought about this? For weeks, father, and you think it's the only way? There is no other way. Out of those three things, what's the important thing that the son says? What's this thing he would say with force? Again, pause the video, turn and talk, or think, then get your answer. Ready? Pause. I'm going with, there is no other way. Because that's where he's saying, nope, I'm going to do it my way. There is no other way. And what do we know? We know that the son is going against the father. Whatever he's doing it his way. All right, you get how this works. I want you to stop, and I want you to continue reading through this text. You're just going to go a section at a time. And notice, I want you to notice something before we move on. In paragraph 10, notice how long it is. That's because it's a thought. And then look down here, 11, 12, 13. Those are words, things they're saying. So this one, this is what he's thinking. This is what he's saying. One way that the author is arranging this text is the thoughts are very long, but the words are much shorter. I wonder what he's saying about that. Maybe that's something when we analyze this text at the end that we should be able to talk about. Why are the thoughts so much more than the words? We're going to talk about that on another day. But here we go. I want you to work through. You can work as a team. If you're by yourself, just do the best you can and catalog in your still chart what the character thinks, what the character says, what the character thinks, the effect they have on each other. So how's the father affecting the son? And how's the son affecting the father? Those are the only two characters in this story. Make sure you do that. That's important. The actions they're taking. There's not a ton of actions in here, but there are some tiny actions that you need to pay attention to. And then is there any important look that they have? Anything about them you need to know? I didn't really find anything in that box. So if you find something in that box, let me know. But that brings up a good point. You're not going to get every box full in every text. Only fill in what's important. And if a box is empty, that's okay. On this text, really, the look box is the only one that should be empty. All right, guys, good luck and have a good day. Bye.